do we make anger our ally? That's what we're talking about today on Set to Love.
You can live a life in flow where your deepest heart's desires become reality.
You are here to contribute through your essence, fall deeper in love with your life and the journey that you are on.
Take what works, ditch the rest, and always stay set to love.
Thank you for being a part of this community. We're all designed to live in flow. So let's go.
Good morning.
Good morning, best friend. How are you today?
Another beautiful day in Southern California.
It really
doing great.
is. It's so nice. And the kids are done with school.
Woohoo! Party
Official.
time.
The junior high and high school kids have been done for a minute, but the twins just finished yesterday, was their very last day. And so I do not know what our plans are, but I'm going to do something today or tomorrow. I'm going to do something with them to like kick off summer. So I'm really excited.
Yay. And they get to sleep in a little.
Yes. And I didn't have to drive anyone to school this morning. So that was like last night I had like a glass of red wine. I was like, it's like summer started for me. And Julian's like, I still have to get up at 5:30. I'm like, oh, that's
What
true.
about letting the boys build a fort?
Oh, yeah.
In the house or in the yard so they could sleep at the fort. I loved to do that when I was younger.
Yeah, sometimes they'll sleep on the trampoline outside, and then there's been a few times where I forget to turn the sprinklers off.
Oh my.
Like, at 3 a.m, they go off or something, and you hear all this like running inside. It's so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
All right. Well, this morning, anger can be our ally. What and how are we going to do that?
Okay, so I was going through like my favorite book to find show ideas, Be Happy, Patrick Lindsay. And there was this quote in there that I just went, oh yeah, let's talk about that today. It was so profound. And here's the quote. It says, if you are patient in one moment of anger, you will avoid 100 days of sorrow. So I'll read it one more time. If you're patient in one moment of anger, you will avoid 100 days of sorrow. And that's a Chinese proverb. And, you know, like maybe even more than 100 days of sorrow. I think about, like, I don't get angry really often where like I'm yelling or I've just really lost my mind. But one of the times that I did was when I got really mad at my sister-in-law. And it was like, so I know this feeling of like out of control anger where I just didn't care. I wasn't thinking through anything. I just got on the phone and called her and just started like yelling at her. Like, just, I can't believe blah, 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 you always da, da, da. I was so mad. I just let anger take the wheel. It was like sometimes when I think about like how my kids, especially the twins, how they react to things. And it's like they go from being totally fine to then they lost the game. And it's like just the craziness breaks out. The coin flips and all of a sudden they're just completely out of control. And that's what I felt like in that moment. Like I let my 9-year-old self take the steering wheel and just start like driving this car into my sister-in-law's heart, you know, and her brain, because I was so mad. And it's not only just 100 days of sorrow. Gosh, we haven't really talked in like years. So
That's what I was just going to say to you is it's like people can forgive you for things you say, but they can't forget. And so we have to be really, really careful about when we are angry and like you said, spewing out mean things that are just in the moment that a lot of times people, when they're that angry, they really do say things that they don't mean, but the person that's hearing it really doesn't accept the fact that they were just angry. It hurts and it cuts deep. And so,
well, and here's the thing, like things I was saying weren't necessarily, it was like maybe like 10% truth, right? So there were definitely things in there that I could have addressed in a much more mature, calm, rational way. But I just went full bore crazy town in that moment, you know? And so thinking back, I'm like, what advice would I go back and tell myself if I could say, hold on, Eva, don't pick up that phone. Let's just take a few steps to like bring yourself back to baseline and make some decisions from like a compassionate, loving place instead of this crazy town, out of control 9-year-old Eva, yelling. And we talk about this a lot, but I think the very first thing is just breathing, just taking in some deep breaths, like coming back to baseline. Have you noticed that for yourself? Like when you start to get riled up, just like really
absolutely. And I think my advice number one would be there's so many times where you're biting at the, chomping at the bit. You just want to say something. But to me, time is a beautiful thing.
Right.
So if you're already hot and crazy and ready to lose your mind, which I have been there too, I realize that I do tell myself, okay, regardless, you're giving it a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to think about it and how you're going to say it. Because when we just react, a lot of times, even if it's not just anger, things will look a little bit different even 30 minutes later. Well, like maybe she didn't mean it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this was this. And you start really thinking it completely through. And to me, time, step away.
Yes. I had a friend of mine, she said she used to always just react like right off the cuff, whatever. And her parents, the advice they gave her was, you need 24 hours before you say anything or do anything. Yep. Give yourself 24 hours to really sit and process how you're feeling. And I think what's really important in that 24 hours is to name how you feel, how are you feeling? And then why are you feeling that way? Like really kind of self-therapy yourself a little bit if you can be honest and open. So where is this anger coming from? What is this really about? And recognizing it and honoring how you feel, but then choosing a more compassionate response, not only just for yourself, but for the other person. Like what would be a more loving way that I could respond? You're angry for a reason. There's something that's triggering you, that's making you mad. Yeah. And I think that's like, it's like a sign. It's like the universe, your body, whatever is trying to tell you, you need to set up some boundaries here. You need to get clear on what it is that you're going to be okay with and what it is you're not going to be okay with. I mean, there's things that are sometimes out of our control, right? So like maybe for my kids, if they always fight around something, I'm going to have to set up some boundaries around that thing so they don't just keep fighting about it. But sometimes things happen to us that are out of our control, right? Like driving your car and someone cutting you off or whatever, something in the outside world that you do not have control over. So what do you do then when it isn't like you need that little bit of time? It's just in the moment. How do you practice that self-control and making anger your friend when you're in that kind of state?
Well, a couple of things for me, when what I think of now is just having flow in my life. I just tell myself that's just ridiculous to even get upset over the car that's being a jerk, or even to tell you the truth, I think I'm not honking at someone because they're being a jerk, because for all I know, they could shoot me. I mean, that is the way our society is today. A lot of times people are getting hurt just reacting to stupid anger things. You know what I'm saying?
True.
And I don't want to be negative, but that does hit my mind. Like, you know what? Just stay cool, stay calm, because you don't know about the people that are around you that could be in crazy town. And that's not good. But as far as this anger and things, though, something that I can relate with mostly when it comes to anger, a lot of times there's hurt. More so than when you're angry, I think you're hurt. And I bring that back to even being separated and going through a divorce. And how many times I had to bite my tongue and, keep blinders on to do what was best for my kids and leave my own feelings and emotions out of it. So I think sometimes when you can rationalize that this is a relationship that, yes, it's hurtful right now. Yes, I'm going to go through all of this, but now fast forward, I look at all that hard work was so worth it, because it works out in the end when you can work through. But it was really from hurt and,
yeah, you're right.
A little bit of jealousy in there about what he could do with the kids that I couldn't do. And, And instead of reacting or being vindictive or whatever, that's what I'm saying. I try to just stay focused on doing the right thing.
You know what I noticed, like when Chad and I were going through everything when we were separating, and that anger, those anger things would come up more on, like, he was definitely way more angry than I was, and he would, take that anger out on me. And he was so good at like figuring, like it would just keep coming and keep coming. I'd be calm, I'd be breathing, I'm good. And then like he'd say something, there'd be something in there that would like set me off. And then I was like, dang it. And I felt like I had to defend myself. Like, I am a good mom, or, whatever it was in that moment. And that is what I'm talking about when it says like setting up boundaries for yourself, so It's like, instead of just receiving it, and just being like, I'm good, I can breathe through this, I know he's just hurt. It's like, just have that boundary. So the boundary for me was, I'm not even going to read the message. Like, why even put myself through that?
Remember.
So this is how like I would test my abilities to like manage my own anger, because I'd go like, okay, I haven't read his messages in like a month. And I go, let's see if I can handle it. And then I'd start, we'd start communicating again, or something would happen. And then he would start to get mean. And I could see like how much more compassion I could really have for the situation. That's really what it came down to. Like, I was able to remove my own, like, it's not really about me. He's just really, really hurting. And so I could find myself over time able to just always respond, or not respond at all, or respond with compassion, or just very brief, not get triggered. But it took a while for that to happen. And every once in a while, I would get sucked back into that tornado, and I'd be like, okay, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. I need a little bit more time. I need a little bit more self-love and self-compassion, and working on that in myself. And over time, it just got less and less. And he just got nicer. And, it's like he was
now you guys are doing good.
Stuff. Yeah. He was working through his own stuff. And, now he's totally in love and has a great life with another woman. And, they're helping to raise the kids. They've got their own kids. Like, life is good. But if I would have responded like constantly with this like tit for tat and negative and harsh and mean back to him, like, who knows where we would be today? Probably just deeper in a hole of like resentment and, anger with each other. So someone in the relationship has to have that more control. And hopefully, if it's a parent-child relationship, it's the parent, because it's hard for a 9-year-old to self-regulate.
With the parent-child relationship, I think too, why it's so important that parents take, let's say your child does something, right at the moment, you're like, okay, you're grounded for a month. You're not having a phone. And you do all these evil things to your child, when sometimes it doesn't even fit the crime. Realistically, you're not going to keep them grounded for a month. And then what does that do? It really does. In the long run, that's not good for your relationship with your child, because you have to do what you say. So part of the reason when you want to be angry, or you can't react when you're angry, you need to say, okay, for right now, go to your room. I need a moment.
Yeah.
And then you either need to say, I need a day or two to decide how long you're grounded, but you are definitely grounded. So for right now, be in your room. I don't know. I just think that reacting a lot of the time.
I think giving yourself that time is important.
Yeah. Because a lot of times you think, okay, well, that really annoyed me and I was really mad, but now I've calmed down. But now you haven't done damage to your child by saying all of these things that you can't take back.
Right. Or follow through with, or want to follow through with. Like, I've definitely had to be there too, where I just go, okay, hold on, just separate and let me think about what the consequence is going to be. Because I've done you're grounded forever, or I'm taking your phone away for a month. And then I'm like, oh man, they need to have their phone for school, and I need to reach them when they're here. And that was like, or they just figure out how to talk on their computer instead of their phone. So they find workarounds around.
They're smart.
Around your things. I know.
Anger takes, it's a little bit off the beaten track to this conversation, but a little bit that I think we could talk about another time is, when I've done something wrong to someone else, it's so hard for me to give them the time because I just want to make it right. I didn't, in my heart, I don't want to do anything to upset someone. So I'll have a sick stomach and, I react in such a way that I just kick myself so hard that I'm too hard on myself instead of just giving it a little bit of time and saying, you know what, this is going to work out. I just automatically go to, oh my gosh, what have I done? And that's not good either. So this is another topic we're going to have to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking like forgiveness. That's another one we could go because that sometimes follows the anger, right? Owning,
react
like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I reacted that way, or because I think that's part of it. Making anger, your ally, making anger your friend is being able to recognize that you're angry, having compassion, breathing through it, not responding. But if you do respond in that sort of outburst, shouting, negative way, where you're going to have 100 days of remorse, as the Chinese proverb said, that you just give yourself a little bit of time and space and then own your part, as you would say. Own your part. That's probably the harder thing. It's probably harder to own your part than it is to just breathe through and not make that decision in the first place, at least for me. But I think that's a very, very important step to being able to manage and make anger your ally. So thanks for bringing that up. I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Well,
all right, friends.
It's Fantastic Friday.
Fantastic Friday. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. And I love you, best friend. I hope you have a great weekend too.
You guys hit the bell.